Hey, what's up guys, this is T-Bone here. Welcome to another episode of Playing Era of Chaos. Now in today's episode I wanted to focus on a particular topic, and that is rosters. I wanted to talk about how you can use rosters to help you with your fights and your formations, and I think this is an area that isn't widely well known, and so I wanted to share some information with you. Now, Skylinks has also he has made a video on this topic as well, so if you wanted to check it out, I will have the link to his video in the description as well. So let's talk about rosters. So when you go into roster, you're going to be presented with a lot of different parts, and the question a lot of people always have is what should you do with this? And so I'm gonna kind of explain how you can use your rosters and also why you would need different groups. So rosters are split into, you can see, various factions as well as different classes, and each of the units in Era Chaos also gets boosts from two different things. It gets boosts from its own faction as well as the class it belongs in. So if we take a look at the Free Sultan, for example, when you go to the relevance, you're going to see a roster connection. And so here you can see that I have Infernal as well as Caster. That's because this is what a Free Sultan is. It's both an Infernal unit as well as a Caster unit. And the goal here is to use the rosters to fill out as many of these slots as possible. So you can see here my Infernal is boosted up in both, my Free Sultan is boosted up in both Infernal and Caster, and you can see I have bonus unit attack as well as health. And so when you go into roster, you want to keep in mind of your formation and also what factions you want to go with. So the ingredient here, really the recipe is focus on 2 factions per group, and then try to fill out your other classes. So a faction would be something like Castle, Rampart, Stronghold, Necropolis, Infernal, etc. You can see it's almost every other one here is switches between faction and also the class. And then once you fill out the 2 factions that you care about for your formation, then fill out your classes also. So what you want to focus on is, do you use everybody uses defensive units. So your defense is going to be the #1 priority for you to bump up after you've focused on your faction. So when you go to factions, so let's say Stronghold. Stronghold is an easy one to get your units to 6 stars. So here I have all of my units that are in the Stronghold faction, and you can also see here they have scores. So you can see the scores S, that is basically the S tier. Then they have A tier. I have one of them here. If I were to remove Goblin from here, you can see here I will drop down my unit attack and health from 111% to 96.1%, effectively 15% decrease in my unit damage output. This is across all Stronghold units, so it's pretty big significance, big change there, and it's significant. So I'm gonna go ahead and add it back in. And so it's important to note that what you want to do is you want to place your units for your faction first. Place your faction units in there because generally most factions only have 6 to 8 units, and so you want to make sure that you provide as many as you can. And then for the classes, use the other factions that you aren't using to fill it out. So you can see here I have Dwarf, Iron Golem, Dendroid Guard, Skeleton Warrior, Walking Dead Centaur. So basically I have Rampart, Tower, and Necropolis. These are the 3 factions that I'm not really focusing on for this grouping, and so I'm using them to put them in here. In order to get to the S tier, you need to have a roster rating of 2100 or higher. In fact, you need to have over 2100 because I had a unit right at 2100 and it was still in A, so you need to be at least 1 higher in order to move to the S tier. The goal here is to move to S tier so you can have the highest amount of the higher you go, really, the more attack bonus you'll get and also health boost. You can also get more by boosting up your roster by upgrading it through your runes. So every time you get the roster runes, you can upgrade them and you're gonna get more power as well. And so the way that you upgrade them is through either just getting more stars on your units or by leveling, and also by using talent upgrades. So whenever you go into the talent and you upgrade, you can see right now my Afridi has a talent power of 12,000, and you can see every time you level up, you get more roster rating, and that helps here as well. And so that we've talked about, having just about 2 factions per grouping. So that means you need to have multiple groups. And so I have here 4 different groups unlocked. The first 2 that you unlock is going to cost 250 gems, and then the third one is going to cost you 300, and it'll cost more afterwards. And I've used this for different purposes. So you can see here I have also a tower focus where I have, I have all of my tower faction filled out, whereas my Infernal now actually dropped down to just one because I'm focusing on tower and I'm using my Infernal units to fill out the other classes. And so this is what you want to do. Depending on what your goals are, you're going to want to switch them around because that is going to make a big difference for your damage output. And then I also created one for Steadwick and also Conflux Planes. So in this particular case, I'm going to be focusing on the Water Lord. And so for Water Lord, I have ramparts as well as ranged units. And so I try to add as much as I could, but it's also limited on the units that I am able to use here. And so you can see here, I have, I have a stronghold. And so I have Orc in a stronghold here. What I could do is I could also choose to put my Orc into my ranged roster so that I can boost my other ranged unit, because I'm going to be using Silver Pegasus in there. So you can see, because I'm using Silver Pegasus, I also have my Rampart filled out. However, because I'm using my defense units that are from Stronghold, I also want to try to fill out. So there's a little bit of a juggling here, but in the end, actually using Orc in this roster is going to boost up the overall power output. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this as an example to go through a Conflux Plane fight to show you how this benefits me. So when I go in to a fight here, now what I will do is, if I'm going to Conflux Plane, if you take a look at the units I need to bring in, I have I will switch this back. This was the unit this was the composition I actually had, and these are the recommended units here. And so what I have here is, these are the units that I'm bringing in for me. So you can see I have two, I have two units from my stronghold, and I have two rampart units, and I have one castle. I actually have 3 units from stronghold, and I have 2 casters from Infernal. The last 4 units here are actually the ones that make a difference. So that's why I wanted to make sure that my rampart, my archer, and also my caster are all filled out, as well as the fire from Gog, as well as from the Efreeti Sultan. So I'm going to actually quit out here because I need to make sure that I'm using the right roster. So I'm going to quit out here. And this is what I mean. If I were to enter with the wrong roster, I would have a harder time taking out the boss because my damage output is going to be less. And so let's go ahead and go back to the battle. And what you want to do is you want to press on the formation button. And you can see here my roster. Right now I'm using plane, which is my Conflux Plane. So I'm using the right roster group. If I had something else, I would be okay still, but my overall damage output is going to be reduced. So to maximize, even though it's a little bit, sometimes that small amount of increase makes all of the difference. So I'm going to go in now, and I'm going to also talk about the strategy you want to use for Waterlord. This works even at level 10. So using Mafala as the leader, what you want to do is you want to time your shield. And the first shield will start at 2 minute and 40 mark, and it goes from there. And so during this time, what you want to do is you also want to boost your other units, and you can use your spells on the lord. So at 2 minutes and 40 mark, make sure that you cast the shield, because you're going to protect them from the spell that the Water Lord is going to cast. And so during this time, after that, every 25 seconds, you want to cast the shield again. So the next one is going to be at a 2 minute and 15 second mark. And so at the 2 minute 15 second mark, we're going to go and cast a shield again. And the reason why you need to have the Efreeti Sultan, or Efreeti and Gog, and also have Silver Pegasus in there, is because they are needed to take down the shield. And the next timing is going to be 1 minute and 50 second mark. So I'm going to use the shield one more time. So notice how quickly I'm able to bring down the shield whenever it gets brought up. And that is the reason why I have this and why I'm pushing on the levels here. And so the timing after this is going to be at the 1 minute and 25 second mark. So it's always important to sort of keep a count in your head on when the next time is important for you to use your shield, and so that you can make sure you protect your units. As long as you can keep your back line healthy, you're not going to have a problem taking the boss. So the next timing is going to be at the 1 minute mark. And so at the 1 minute mark, we're going to go ahead and cast our shield onto the unit here. And you can see that with about a minute remaining, we are already almost done with this. And so we just need to make sure that we protect our backline again, because the next timing is going to be at the 35-second mark. And so again, just want to make sure that I cast this. I'm going to cast this just a little bit earlier because I can protect it anyways. And we're going to go ahead and take out the boss right now with this particular strategy. Now, if you don't use the exact roster, it's still okay, but what I wanted to show here is I boosted my Infernal and also my Infernal units. I boosted my Silver Pegasus and I boosted my Thunderbird. These are the 4 units that are the most important for this particular level, and so that's why I focused heavily on getting this. Silver Pegasus got a lot of boost from the Rampart as well as the ranged unit damage output, and so she's able to really jump in and deal a lot of damage out there. Whereas because in this particular case, your defense and your offense units are really just there to hold the boss at bay, it was less important for me to worry about the ratings and just focus on instead casters, range unit, and also the factions that they belong in. So now we're able to complete the Water Lord level 10. And this is just, a combination of using the right skill and more importantly, using the right roster to take it out. And so you can see here, again, just a quick review. I have different ones for different reasons. I also have Steadwick. So again, Steadwick is, I'm on defense now. And for defense, if you take a look at my Steadwick defense, it's also a good time to talk about it. I'm not using any offensive units at all, and so it is in my best interest to use all ranged and also casting units. Now while I'm here, I'm also using Ice Elemental as well as Gremlin and the Phoenix. These are 3 very, very helpful units to keep the behemoth at bay and to take it down earlier while using Gelu. So I went back to using Gelu for the Steadwick defense. And what I can do is I can show you how this works now. So if you take a look at my formation, I'm now going to use a different roster that uses Steadwick, which focuses primarily my Conflux units. So I have 3 Conflux units here. So my Conflux as well as Infernal, and I focus on ranged and also casting units. I basically didn't care about defense or offensive. I used all of my, and also I have another Conflux here. So I have 4 Conflux units in here, so definitely wanted to boost my Conflux roster rating. And I also boosted, ranged as well as the caster. And so let's take a look now and see what difference this makes, how much damage I'm able to deal. So using Gelu, I chose to use Gelu over Solmir because in the long run, Solmir does actually provide more, Gelu provides a better burst damage that's required for taking out the waves. And you can see here using the Phoenix at the top lane also helps deal with the bigger units that come out at the top. And you can see when the Phoenix triggers its skill, it's able to take out the units in an entire lane, and that makes it very, very helpful. And here we have the Infernal units that are starting to come out, and we're going to continue to just mow them down using our skills. So you can see we're able to take them out pretty quickly, pretty easily, and we have the battering ram that's coming, but that's okay. So we're going to use our skills. And you can see we're able to take the battering ram out before it even reached us. Now, of course, we're also nearing the end here, so that our wall is also stronger. But you can see we are able to take out the boss a lot faster. That's also because we have archers at the top. Okay, so since the last time that I showed you Steadwick defense, what's different this time is we now have higher level walls, which now includes additional archers on the walls, and they're dealing more damage. So you can see we're doing a lot better here. But in terms of placement, what I find is using the combination of Ice Elemental as well as having Gremlin there allows you to stun your units. And for example, if I have another big boss coming, what I could do is I could stun it because it's a single unit, and this is where having the Ice Elemental and also Gremlin helps because it'll stun and also freeze the unit, freeze that bay. So you can see here we have the ice elemental that basically freezes there, and it really is the archers on the bridge that's doing most of the work for taking out the boss there. But holding it in line allows us to deal more damage here, and so we're actually doing really well. We're going through a lot of waves at this point. I believe we're going to finish the defense today. Actually, today should be the day that we finish the defense, and then after this we're going to increase our level cap from 90 to 100. And so this is also a good time to be talking about Steadwick defense here. So really a bunch of topics all in one, and here is another boss, but we timed out. And so our overall damage here was 320. I think definitely could be a lot better, but we improved it again just I think from increasing our overall roster rating. Okay, I mean it's not the only thing, but like I said, it is something that helps by by increasing your unit's damage. You're just going to have a better return on your investment overall. And what we want to do is we want to also build our city walls. Like you can see here, we have now a level 6 wall. So now our level 6 wall has archers on there, and we have archers that attack. You can see how effective it was against the boss. Okay, and so this is a good time to also talk about, just before I end, the level cap. One of the things that you get when you get a level cap is you have an experience exchange. So when you go to the experience exchange, you can see here, as you gain experience, you can exchange them for items, and the one that is the most significant is the Dragon Blood Crystal. So every time you get a cap, you can get up to 20 Dragon Blood Crystals for 1,000 experience per crystal. And so I was able to get to level 90 a couple days ago, and I was able to get myself 10 crystals total. That allowed me to use it on my angel, which was at 3 stars, and it had 10 remaining to get to 4 stars. So I was able to get it to 4 stars using that. So it was a really good way to get myself something that I couldn't get, and that is essentially an SSR token. And so if you're on a server that is just about hitting the Steadwick, or if you're already on Steadwick, you want to hit your level cap as quickly as possible so that you can benefit from this as well. Anyways, so I'm going to keep this video here. This is basically what I wanted to cover. Using your rosters is going to be helpful, especially when you are talking about various different fights. Like for me, when I go to Conflux Planes, I will continue to switch this around because I'm using various different units. So this is going to be one where I'm going to keep playing around with a different setup depending on which boss I'm going up against. My two main PvP or my two main sort of go-to rosters are going to be my stronghold units and also my tower units, because I have Astral. So using Astral, I focus on tower, and using my my Soul Mirror, I focus on my stronghold. So if you're starting out, you're asking yourself, like, should you invest a lot into it? I would say you should slowly get into it, but I would say, because when you're starting, you're most likely going to be starting with Castle and Infernal, as well as Stronghold. Those will be the 3 factions that I would focus on, and not worry about the other factions until later. Maybe Rampart will be after that, since those are the ones that are easy to get, or maybe Necropolis. I personally don't have any heroes that boost Necropolis, that's why I don't go with it. But hopefully this is helpful for you, and also hopefully this gives you another another strategy to help you take out some of the bosses there, and also helps you with Steadwick. Again, thanks a lot for your time. If you have any questions, feel free to comment down below. And I will also put in my description the link to my Discord server, so that if you wanted to join, you can at any time. Thanks a lot for watching. Thanks for your time, and I'll see you in the next episode. Take care.